just hold on. Better days are coming, my brothers and sisters, you have to attention. When the world will see and know what righteous light. No more fuss, me say, no more fight. I man no say better days will be coming. No more wickedness, yes, a bad vibing. It's in a righteousness, man, a man of peace standing. Strictly peace and love, ever growing. Melody, sound and but you know something wrong before they suffer over. I say the days of no more. No man, no day, no more. I want to see a better world when I be wicked down. When the innocent them can no longer. And there is one day pure calm of niceness, no stand. We all need to work towards this. I'll let any politician give we any this. We all need to work towards this. And I'll make any politician give we any this. Melody, so higher. But it was a fair run for the suffer over. I say the days of no more. No man, no day, no more. The warmongers with the devil them flirt. The innocent them always try to hurt. Them need to stop them military advancing and start the hungry belly feeding. The truth they should be seeking. Praises to the Most High they should be given. Those who know the truth know of what I'm talking. You see the light, know of what I'm shouting. Better days so higher. What you know, some fair run before they suffer over. I say the days of no more. No man, no day, no more. Blessed are those that mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see the Most High. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of Yah, the Most High. Better days, you know? Sure. Yeah, man. Better days, no? Before they suffer over. The days of no more. No man, no day, no more. Better days so higher.
This keeps saying this, Mike. Problem has occurred, error.
Where,
You need a website.
You hear me? It won't load.
it won't load?
No, I did it again, it won't load.
Okay.
Yeah.
is it? Deuteronomy 28 verse 68. And the Most High shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I speak unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. Egypt? Yeah, man. This is talking about the spiritual Egypt, America, the house of bondage.
Oh, that's how our Western journey began.
Yeah, man.
Israel gone captivity for breaking your law. We were driven out of Israel by the Roman Empire. Seek some refuge in our West Africa. The Arab and the Hamite sold us to Esau. They focus on the slave ship to America. Enslave us, fire on the slave master. But the scripture said you must be a fierce starter. For the iniquities that your forefathers. Chihuahua. So beautiful.
Yahuah. I want to say shalom to you all, Mashpaka. It is wonderful to be here this evening and to see each and every one of you, family. I am aware that a family joining us via YouTube is experiencing some problems on this evening, and I want to apologize for. It seemed to be an issue with YouTube itself, and so we have no control over it. So I do want to greatly apologize for the inconvenience, family. Nonetheless, it is my hope that if you are unable to view the broadcast on YouTube, please remember that you can go to Facebook and you can watch the live feed from Facebook. Once again, I want to say shalom to each and every one of you. It is indeed great to be here on this evening. We give Yahuah praise, honor, and esteem for yet another opportunity to gather in his name and to be encouraged in his word, to be reminded of his commitment and his goodness toward us. And so for that, we give him praise, honor, and esteem. Praise Yahuah. We're going to open up this evening in prayer, and we come this evening to Foundational Facts Fellowship with an agenda. I was asked by Aki Matatyahu if I would cover Yakazako, Ezekiel chapter 38 and chapter 39. And so we're going to be looking at those chapters on this evening, looking at what we can expect in the restoration. That's really what those chapters deal with. What can be expected in the restoration, right? And so we're going to be looking at that this evening from the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38 and chapter 39, along with some other scriptures. And so let us turn our faces, if we would, Mashpaka, toward the set-apart place of Yahuah, as he commands us when we find ourselves scattered. If we would turn our faces toward the set-apart place, which is to turn our faces toward the east, and if we would cry out to him, repent of our transgressions, and seek his face, then he would hear from Shamayim, and he would heal our land. And so may we let us turn our faces toward his set-apart place. Halal hu Yahuah. Abba Yahuah, we give you thanks and praise for this opportunity to once again assemble in your name. We thank you, Yahuah, for your great mercy, loving kindness, and compassion. We thank you for the opportunity to gather once again to fellowship with our brothers and sisters, Father, and to have great communion in your word. And so, Yahuah, we pray that you would barak this time, that you would be esteemed, Father, that you would feed us, halal hu Yahuah, with the bread of your word. We pray, Yahuah, that when we leave here on this evening, that we would be satisfied with your word, Father, that it would bring life, that it would bring encouragement, that it would bring hope, Father, that it would bring reassurance, Abba Yahuah, that we would be reminded of your justice, that you are just, Yahuah, and that we would be reminded of your deliverance, your commitment to your people, halal hu Yah. And so we honor you today. We barak you today. We ask, Father, that you would have your way in our midst. Be esteemed, Yahuah. I pray that you would open our eyes to your word, our eyes and our hearts. Father, help us to see those wonderful things that have been hidden, not from us, but for us. And so we praise you for the opening of the eyes of the blind, the opening of the eyes of your people. Continue, Yahuah, to awaken us to your truth. Barak every household represented here this evening, and those who are unable to be with us, we pray for your barakah upon them. Pray, Yahuah, that you would continue to preserve your people and watch over us. We know, Father, that we have adversaries, those who seek to destroy your people, and have sought to do so for a long time. Abba Yahuah, we pray for your continued protection. Even we pray, Yahuah, that we pray that you would guard us, even in the foods that we eat in this place of captivity. We pray, Yahuah, that you would guard our bodies, guard our minds, guard our hearts. I pray, Father, guard our households, guard our children. Have your way in us, I pray, in Yahuwah's name, in Yahusha's name. Amen. Praise Yahuah. Halal hu Yahuah. Once again, I want to say shalom to you all, family. Um, and we truly barak the great name of Yahuwah. It is indeed great to be here on this evening. Yahuwah be esteemed. Halal Yahuwah. This evening we're going to the book of Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39. But before I go there, family, I just wanted to no, I'll reserve that. I'll reserve that for another time. But we're going to go to the book of Ezekiel, Yahuah, chapter 38 and chapter 39, and looking at what can be expected, or what should be expected during our restoration, during the restoration, okay? During and after restoration, what can be expected. So we know from chapter 37 of the book of Ezekiel and other places in the scriptures that there comes a point where the two witnesses who have been laying dead in the street for quite a long time, lifeless, who have been beaten down and trampled on and have laid lifeless in the street, or another analogy of the street is laying lifeless in the valley for a very long time. Dry bones laying in the valley, apparently lifeless. But there would come a time where there would be an awakening. There would be a shaking. There would be a shaking. And in the midst of that shaking, there would be an awakening. And so the bones, the dry bones that have been laying lifeless for a very long time, would begin to come to life. Those bones would begin to come to life. And so in the process, as they begin to come to life, that is Yahuwah turning his heart back to his people, revealing himself and his name to his people, and revealing his truth to his people, and causing us to come out of religion wherever we have been dispersed, causing us to come back to him, and forsaking the ways of men and the traditions of men, and returning to his truth. And so he caused there to be a shaking in the valley. He caused there to be an awakening. And so the bones begin to come together, bone to its bone, and then Yahuwah begin to return substance to the bones. So sinews begin to come back on the bones. Skin and flesh begin to come back to the bone. Muscle tissue begins to come to the bones. And the bones now are coming together. After this awakening takes place, after the awakening is complete, and of course the awakening is a process, but after the awakening is complete, the writings go on to show that there will be restoration after the awakening, that there will be restoration after the awakening. And so we're going to be looking at the book of Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39 in that regard, which is continuing from chapter 37. And we're going to be looking also at other scriptures in the process. Okay, we're going to be looking at other scriptures in the process. So let me get some scriptures on the screen. We're going to begin here in chapter 38 on this evening of the book of Ezekiel. Let me see, BibleHub.com. I'm going to put that on the screen. And we're going to go to Yahuah, chapter 38 is where we'll begin. As a matter of fact, just as a refresher, as a reminder, I just might begin toward the end of chapter 37. Keep us reminded. Everything's acting a bit slow here this evening, family, so bear with me. I'm going to make that a little bit bigger, hopefully, so the family can see. Now, I'm also going to share this for the family who's able to view it on Facebook. I'm going to go ahead and share it, the screen on Facebook. Okay. Yahuah, chapter 37. The hand of Yahuwah. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to read from verse 1 because we don't have enough time. So I'm going to go down a little bit here. Verse 22 of chapter 37 is where we'll begin. And I shall make them one nation in the land on the mountains of Yasharal, and one king shall be king over them all. And let them no longer be two nations, and let them no longer be divided into two reigns. We've looked before at how Yasharal became divided into two reigns. But Yahuah says there's coming a time after the awakening when we will no longer be one, where we will no longer be two, but we will be one nation, no longer divided, but one nation. Okay? Now, again, to keep this in context, this is after the awakening. After the awakening takes place, then comes the regathering. Okay? After the awakening takes place, then comes the regathering. But also, family, after the awakening takes place, persecution also returns according to Yahuwah's word. Persecution returns to his people. Persecution returns to his people, because the wicked is not just going to allow us to walk out freely. Okay? Those who have benefited from us being their slaves are not just going to allow us to walk out freely. And so persecution will come. And persecution is not just going to come from the land in which we're living. Persecution will also come from those who possess our land. Okay? Now, praise Yahuwah. So in verse 22 he says, and I shall make them one nation in the land. One nation in the land. So we become one nation again once we are returned to the land. There are no longer two houses, but one, on the mountains of Yasharal. And one king, one sovereign shall be sovereign over them all. One sovereign, Yahuwah. And let them no longer be two nations, and let them no longer be divided into two reigns. And they shall no longer defile themselves with their idols. They shall no longer defile themselves with their idols. Our people will no longer call upon Jesus. Our people will no longer call upon Baal. Our people will no longer call upon any of the false mighty ones that they called upon while they were dispersed to the nations. And they shall no longer defile themselves with their idols, nor with their disgusting matters, nor with any of their transgressions. And I shall save them from all their dwelling places in which they have transgressed. And I shall cleanse them, and they shall be my people, and I will be their Elohim. While Dahoud my servant is king over them, and they shall all have one shepherd, and walk in my right rulings, and guard my instructions, and shall do them. I want to stop here for a moment and highlight something, because this is where some people say and teach that Mashiach is Dahoud, that there is no Mashiach named Yahusha, and that Mashiach is Dahoud. And that's not correct. That's not according to the scriptures. Now, family, you know, when you read in the book of Romans, I believe it's in Romans chapter 8, Shaul says that we are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. We are surrounded by a great cloud of witnesses. And his choice for using the word cloud as a way of defining the multitude is no coincidence. And what he is saying is that in our restoration, in our final restoration, all of the great heroes of Yasharal, I'm not talking about superhero stuff. I'm talking about all of the great men of Yahuah of Yasharal, that we will have the opportunity, family, to dwell with them. Yahuwah's people, we will have the opportunity to dwell with Masha. We will have the opportunity to dwell with Shamuel. We will have the opportunity to dwell with all of the great obedient men of Yasharal. And Dahoud will in fact rule in the earthly kingdom according to the scriptures. But that's not to say that Dahoud is Mashiach, as some people teach. You see, when we are restored, there comes a point where even the priesthood will be restored. When we are in the land, the priesthood will be restored. The priesthood will be restored. That means that the tribes will be restored. But it is not us that's going to determine who is from what tribe. It is Yahuah, our deliverer, that will identify the tribes. Because we have been so sifted that left up to us, even though you have people right now who are putting out maps and saying that if you're living over here, you are of that tribe, and if you're living over there, you are of the other tribe, and if you're living there, you're of the other tribe. The fact of the matter is that that is very skewed information, that is very flawed information, because it's impossible for any of us to know to what tribe we belong. As a matter of fact, the truth of the matter is simply because you may be melanated and because you have a desire to call upon Yahuah does not necessarily mean that you are of a tribe of Yasharal, but it might very well be that you, being an elect of Yahuah, have been awakened by Yahuah, just another stranger. You see, because some people have this perception that the only strangers that we can expect to be grafted into Yasharal, for those who actually do, let me put it this way. There are some people out there who follow the white supremacist doctrine and teach that nobody can be grafted in. Okay? That where the white supremacist says that this is a white thing, now they're saying that this is a black thing. Neither one is true, as we talked about yesterday. But you do have people who understand that there will be a grafting in. But what they do is, wow, Fuse is tripping really badly, Key Willie says. But what they do is they limit the grafting in only to Caucasian or white, you see. But the reality is that not every black person is of Yasharal. Simply because one is black don't make them Yasharal. You see, and so you have melanated people who are grafted in, as well as you have people of other European descent who are also grafted in. You see, but there is a tendency among some to think that the only people who come in who are grafted in are people who are European looking. You see, and that's flawed understanding also. So people from other nations, Yahuah always made place for those who will reject the ways of their ancestors and turn to his Torah. No matter what they look like, Yahuah have always made place for them to be joined to his people and to be bound by his constitution. Okay, you can do that, babe. Yeah, do that. Okay, so it is important to understand that. Now, so Dahoud, so this great cloud of witnesses, family, when we are rejoined and regathered and Yahuah resurrect his people, so this gives us a clue, okay? Oh, it works now. Oh, okay, family, my wife just, on YouTube, it will says, please report this,
I don't know how to report anything, so I don't know.
You just clicked on the thing, right? Said yes or whatever?
It didn't ask you yes, it just said go back or exit.
Okay. Well, YouTube.
Went out and went back in.
Okay, YouTube seemed to be working now. Okay, so this great cloud of witnesses. This gives us a clue when it speaks about Dahoud reigning. This gives us a clue that it gives us some understanding that this comes after the resurrection. Okay? That Yahuwah's regathering of his people to the land comes after the resurrection. Now that is important information because there are people out there who are telling you that beginning now and beginning back in the 1960s and even before then, that was the time to pack your bags and move to the land because you getting up and going, you see, is the regathering. But that's not what the scriptures tells us. The scriptures tells us that when we are returned to the land and we are cleansed, that Dahoud will be king. Dahoud will reign. Okay? And so this tells us that it is after the resurrection, because Dahoud will have to be resurrected in order to be king over the people of Yahuwah once again. While Dahoud my servant is king over them, and they shall all have one shepherd, and walk in my right rulings, and guard my instructions, and shall do them. So and this is not the only scriptures that speak of Dahoud being king over us, okay? And that does not mean that Dahoud takes the place of Mashiach, as some people teach. But what that tells us is that during the millennial reign, and we're going to see this, during the millennial reign, that while Yahuwah ruled over his people, he will also have an earthly king over this earthly kingdom, and that the priesthood will be reinstated, as it shows us in other parts of the scriptures. And so during the millennial reign, it seemed to me that the scripture shows us that Dahoud will be king over the people of Yasharal, though Yahuwah is ultimate sovereign. Okay? Now, we know that this is during the millennial reign because of what we read as we continue. So while Dahoud my servant is king over them, and they shall all have one shepherd, and walk in my right rulings, and guard my instructions, and shall do them. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given to Yahuwah my servant, where your fathers dwelt. And they shall dwell in it, they and their children and their children's children forever. And my servant Dahoud be their prince forever. Now, again, this does not mean that Dahoud is the Mashiach, okay? But Dahoud in the earthly kingdom, just like you have the earthly priesthood, you have an earthly king. But we will be a united people, while still Yahuwah is sovereign over us. Now, this is also one means by which we can test to see whether or not the Jews are the people of the scriptures. So according to Christian theology, Christian and Jewish theology, Yasharal was restored. Yasharal was restored back in 1948. Yasharal was restored back in 1948, according to Christian teaching and Jewish theology. That the land was restored and the people was restored to the land. The people were restored to the land back in 1948. Now it's been 60 years since the restoration. So here is the question. If these are the true people, and if that is the true restoration, where is the resurrection? Where is Dahoud? You see, if they are the true people, and if that is the real restoration, where is the resurrection? And where is Dahoud ruling as king over them? If in fact, they are the true people. So that's just a bit of evidence to cause us to know that they are not the true people. You see, everything that Yahuwah does, Shaitan seeks to counterfeit. Everything that Yahuwah does, Shaitan seeks to counterfeit. So they are the counterfeit nation. They're not the true people. And that restoration is not the true restoration. Listen to what he says next. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given to Yahuah my servant, where your fathers dwelt, and they shall dwell in it, they and their children's children forever. And my servant Dahud be their prince forever. And I shall make a contract of shalom with them, and an everlasting contract it is with them. And I shall place them, and increase them, and shall place my set apart place in their midst forever, and shall place my set apart place in their midst forever. Let's talk about that set apart place that will be placed in their midst forever just for a moment. Let's talk about that just for a moment. As a matter of fact, while we talk about that for a moment, I want to go somewhere else, because we're going to be touching on a few things here this evening, because we want to dispel some myths. Okay? We want to dispel some myths, and we want to find the truth. So Yahuah says, and I shall make a contract of shalom with them, an everlasting contract is with them, and I shall place them and increase them, and shall place my set apart place in their midst forever, and shall place my set apart place in their midst forever. Set apart place, they will never be separated from the set apart place any longer, is what Yahuah is saying. Now there are people out there who teach that the set apart place is no longer important. And what they used to teach that is in one place, for example, is from the book of Yahuah, or John chapter 4, I believe. Let me go to it very quickly. Bear with me just for a second. I'm gonna stop the screen sharing so I can open up another tab, because this is in my way. Bear with me just for a second, family. Okay, let's go to Yahuah chapter 4 for a moment. I hope that we have time to cover everything that I'd like to cover from studying these scriptures on this evening. But we want to dispel some myths, okay? Because there are people out there who says that the set apart place is now your body. There are people out there who says that the set apart place, the physical set apart place, that structure will be no more. And that the set apart place is our bodies. And because the set apart place is our bodies, then where we can keep the feast wherever we are at, wherever we find ourselves, no matter even if we're in captivity, because the set apart place is our bodies. That's what they say. Okay, I want to read the text that they use to make that argument. Okay, now keep in mind what we just saw, and I'm going to come back to it. I'm going to remind you, family, of what we just read in a moment. I'm going to remind you, Yahuah says that when we are regathered into the land, that the set apart place will be in our midst, and we will no longer be separated from the set apart place. Now there are people out there who teach that the set apart place, as in the physical Haykal, will be no more, that our bodies have become, in their words, that our bodies have become the temple of Yahuah. Okay? And this is one of the scriptures that they use to say that. They also use misuse scriptures from the book of Ezekiel, chapter 45, if I recall correctly, to say that. Now, but this is one of the main scriptures they used to say. So when the sovereign knew that the Pharisees had heard that Yahusha made and immersed more taught ones than Yahuah, although Yahusha himself did not immerse, but his taught ones did, he left Yehuda and went away again to Galilee. And he had to pass through Shamarun. So he came to a city of Shamarun called Shechem, near the piece of land Yaakov gave to his son Yusuf. And Yaakob's fountain was there. So Yahusha, being wearied from the journey, was sitting thus at the fountain, and it was about the 6th hour. A woman of Shamarun came to draw water. Yahusha said to her, "Give me to drink," for his taught ones had gone off into the city to buy food. The woman of Shamarun therefore said to him, "How is it that you, being of Yahudah, ask a drink from me, a woman of Shamarun? For the Yahudim do not associate with Shamarun." Yahusha answered and said to her, "If you knew the gift of Elohim and who it is who says to you, 'Give me to drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." The woman said to him, "Sovereign, you have no vessel, and the vessel is deep, and the well is deep. From where then do you have living water? Are you greater than our father Yaakov, who gave us the well?" She really said master, not sovereign. "Who gave us the well and drank from it himself, and his sons and his cattle?" Yahusha answered and said to her, "Everyone drinking of this water shall thirst again. But whoever drinks of the water I give him shall certainly never thirst. And the water that I give him shall become in him a fountain of water springing up into everlasting life." The woman said to him, "Master, give me this water so that I do not thirst, nor come here to draw." Yahusha said to her, "Go call your husband. Go call your Ayash, and come here." The woman answered and said, "I have no husband." Yahusha said to her, "You have well said, I have no husband. For you have had 5 husbands, and the one whom you now have is not yours, is not your husband. What you have said is true." The woman said to him, "Master, I see that you are a prophet. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you people say that in Jerusalem is the place where one needs to worship." Watch that now. Our fathers worshipped on this mountain, but you people, the people of Yahudah, says that in Jerusalem is the place where one needs to worship. The people of Yahudah didn't say that. Yahuah says that. Yahusha said to her, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when you shall neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. We worship what we know, because the deliverance is of the Yahudim. But the hour is coming." Check your microphones for me, please, family. "But the hour is coming, and now is, when the true worshippers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father also," bear with me just for a second.
All participants are muted.
"But the hour is coming, and now is, when the true worshippers shall worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father also does seek such to worship him. Elohim is spirit, and those who worship him need to worship in spirit and truth." So he says, "But the hour is coming, and now is, when the true worshippers shall worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father also does seek such to worship him." He said, "You worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, because the deliverance is of the Yahudim." Now, she said, Elohim is spirit, and those who worship him need to worship in spirit and truth. The woman said to him, "I know that Mashiach is coming, the one who is called anointed. When that one comes, he shall announce to us all." Yahusha said to her, "I who am speaking to you am he." And upon this his taught ones came, and they were marveling that he was speaking with a woman. However, no one said, "What do you seek?" or why do you speak with her? Now, so they use this text to say that because he says here, where she says, our father worshipped on this mountain, but you people say that in Jerusalem is the place where one needs to worship. Yahusha said to her, and believe me, the hour is coming when you shall neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. Now, what is this saying? What is the reference here? You see, a lot of people out there use this and misrepresent what Yahusha was actually saying, you see. And so there are a couple things happening here. You see, Yahusha knew that bondage, captivity was about to return to the people of Yasharal. Okay, Yahusha knew that captivity was about to return to the people of Yasharal. Yahusha knew that the Romans was about to come back and invade Yasharal and take our people captive once again. It is the same reason why he said, Shadi, I want you to stop. It is the same reason why he said, to the taught ones when they looked and they marveled at the stones that built the Haykal. It is the same reason why he said to them that these stones that you see here today, that there will be not one left on top of the other. Because the Romans were going to come in and they were going to destroy the place. In other words, what he was saying to them then and what he was saying to this woman now is that a time of captivity was coming. So there is coming a time when you will neither worship in this mountain nor at Jerusalem. You see, that's what he was saying to this woman. Who was this woman? This woman was of the 10 tribes of Yasharal. You see, this woman was of the 10 tribes of Yasharal. And when she said that, what she was talking about, this mountain where they worshiped, their fathers worshiped in this mountain, that was based on tradition, not truth. Because remember, when the two houses of Yasharal got divided, that what's his name, Yarabaham, what he did was he went and set up his own high place. He went and set up his own place of worship, and that became registered in the consciousness of the people of Yasharal, and they thought that it was truth, and it was not according to truth. But he did that because he did not want them to go back to Jerusalem, because he feared that he would lose his power, his hold on power. Okay? So a couple things Yahusha was doing here with this woman. He was correcting her understanding of worship. And he was also warning her of coming enslavement, a coming invasion. Okay, but people read this and they say that that this means that our bodies have become the temple of Yahuah, and so we don't need to be in that place in order to keep the appointed things, the things appointed for the place. And so even if you're in captivity, you can do all of Yahuwah's Torah. Go have a seat. Even if you're in captivity, you can do all of Yahuwah's Torah, you see. And as we saw yesterday, as we had a discussion about the Ketubah and the information that came out, from that, we see that even with something as simple as the Ketubah, we can't even keep that right. You see? Because even if you have a Ketubah, the system of the captivity that we are under will not recognize it to some extent. You see? They will not recognize it to some extent. You see, so we are a people in captivity, and the captivity, the impact of the captivity is real. All right, so let's go back now to verse 26 of Ezekiel chapter 37, where he says, and I shall make a contract of peace with them, an everlasting contract it is with them, and I shall place them and increase them, and shall place my set apart place, and I shall place my set apart place in their midst forever. And my dwelling place shall be over them, And I shall be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And the heathen shall know that I am Yahuah. I'm setting Yasharal apart, when my set apart place is in their midst forever. All right, now let's go to the next chapter, chapter 38. Okay, so Yahuah, we see the awakening. Okay, we see the promised regathering in chapter 37. Now, Yahuah is going to bear with me here. Where is this
All participants are muted.
Now Yahuah is going to turn his focus now on those that have enslaved us. Yahuah is now going to turn his focus on those that have enslaved us. And the word of Yahuah came to me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Gog. Okay, as a matter of fact, let's do this. And the word of Yahuah came to me, saying, Son of man. What does son of man mean? It means ban of man. What does it mean? In the case of the prophet, it means servant of my people. Servant of my people. That's what it means. So ban of Adam, ban of my people, servant of my people, set your face toward Gag. Actually, it's Gug. Gug. Set yourself towards Gug, of the land of Magug, the prince of Rash, Mashak, the prince of Rash, Mashak, and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Okay? So set your face against Gag, Gug and Magug, the prince of Rash, Mashak, and Tubal, and prophesy against him. All right. Now, in Christianity, we have heard a lot about Gog and Magog. And we have heard a lot of stuff about who Gog and Magog is, just like we have heard a lot about the witnesses, who they are, right? We have heard of nonsense about Gog and Magog. Based on the, how should I put it, the directional pointer of north, because the scripture speaks of Gog being in the north, what Christianity usually says is that Gog is Russia. What Christianity usually say is that Gog is Russia. And then, so Gog is Russia, but England and America, they're Israel. Okay? Gog is Russia, England and America, and other parts of the European continent, that's Israel, but Gog is Russia, and Russia is going to fight against England, America, and the rest of the European countries, which are the other 12 tribes of Yasharal, the other European countries. That's the Christian doctrine. Listen, Gog is not Russia. Okay? Gog is not Russia. Gog is not limited to Russia. Okay? What we need to understand is then who, because listen, watch this verse. Shadi, I want you to stop. Watch this verse. Okay? Let's read this again. Let's read this again. Now, so Yahuah speaks of, he begins to awaken his people. Okay? He begins to awaken his people. And then he promises that he will regather his people. And After he regathers his people, then he's going to turn his attention to the people who have oppressed his people. Okay, so watch this now. Look at verse 2 of chapter 38. We're going to identify Gog, or Gog, Gog, Magog, Tubal, and all of them. We are going to identify just who they are. Okay, now, he says, servant of my people, son of man, set your face toward Gog, of the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh Mashach, and Tubal, and prophesy against him. I want you to prophesy against Gog. The question is, who is he? Who is Gog? Who is Yahuah telling his prophet to prophesy against? Who is Yahuah going to wage war against? Okay, notice now that he lists a few names here, and there are other names to come. So pay attention to the names that's listed. He talked about Gog, he talked about Magog, he talked about Rosh Mashach, and he talked about Tubal. Who are they? Who are these people? All right, for the answer to that, let's go to the book of Bereshit. Bereshit. Let's go over to the book of Bereshit, chapter 10. Bereshit, Genesis, chapter 10. Okay, Bereshit, chapter 10. Now, we're going to begin reading. We're going to begin reading at verse 1 here. I'm going to read just a few verses. We just want to find out who these folks are. Okay? Now, these are the records of the generations of Shem, Ham, and Japhet, the sons of Nach, and the sons were born to them after the flood. The sons of Japhet were Gomer, and we're going to see him later on in the text. So keep this in mind now. The sons of Japhet, Japhet. Keep Japhet in mind. The sons of Japhet, that's who they call it, Japhet, were Gomer and Magog and Madi and Yahun and Tubal and Mashach and Tyrus, right? And Tyrus. Okay, let me read that again. The sons of Japhet were Gomer and Magog and Madi and Yuan and Tubal and Mashach and Tyrus. Keep them in mind. So where is Gog or Gog and Magog descended from? And where did Tubal come from? And where did Mashach come from? They came from Japhet. They came from Japhet. So when Christianity says, yes, that's indeed right, Akut, Tuda. When Christianity says that Gog or Gog is Russia, that's a half-truth intended to deceive you. And the reason why they limit Gog and Magog to Russia is because they want people to think then that they are Yashar Al, so they limit it to Russia. Okay? But all of the names that we're about to see listed in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38 and 39, all of the names speaks of the descendants of Japhet. Here is the question. Now that reveals something else. That reveals something else, because you have the teaching out there that talk about Arabs being the as they say, the Antichrist. There's that teaching out there, right? Now, but this is quite revealing when we understand who Gog and Magog, or Gog and Magog, or Magog as they say, who they descended from. Okay, and all of the people listed in these two chapters. What this reveals to us is that the enemies of Yasharal that Yahuah speaks of here are all the European nations. Europe came from Yaphat. Europe are the descendants of Yaphat. Let's put that. All of Europe are the descendants, I'm writing it here, of Yaphat. Okay? All of Europe are the descendants of Yaphat. All of Europe. Every European nation was populated by Yaphat. Okay? By the children of Yaphat. By Yaphat and his children. That's who populated all of Europe. Now, what we're going to see as we continue to read is that all of these people mentioned, they're all descendants of Yaphat. Okay? And Yahuah speaks of what these descendants of Yaphat have done to his people and how he's going to bring judgment against them for what they have done to his people. So let's keep that in mind now as we continue to read through Ezekiel chapter 38 and 39. All right? So now he says, Son of man, set your face toward Gog of the land of Magog, the prince of Rashmashach, and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Okay? Prophesy against Europe. And say, thus says Yahuah, Elohim, behold, I am against you, O Gog, or Gog, as they say, but it's Gog, prince of Rashmashach, and Tubal. I will turn you about and put hooks into your jaws, and will bring you out, and all your army, horses and horsemen, all of them splendidly attired, a great company with buckler and shield, all of them wielding swords. You know, family, you know what's interesting? You know what's really interesting about European nations? They are masters at creating weaponry. They have always been masters at creating weaponry. They invented the gun. And with it, they've conquered the world. They're masters of creating weaponry. So Yahuah said that they're skillful with the sword. Okay? They're skillful with the sword. You see? Yes. You now understand, let me just make this clear. A question on the board is the people that dwelled in the Caucasus Mountains. Yes, so Europe was populated from the Caucasus Mountains out. Europe was populated from the Caucasus Mountains out. That's why the Aryans call the Caucasus Mountains, they call it fatherland. Okay, they call it fatherland. Because, and that's why Russia, for example, who feels like he is the prince of the Caucasus, feels like he should be in control of all the people of that region. That's why Russia developed, built the USSR, okay, with the goal, with the vision of expanding the USSR, okay, to include all European nations, because they do know that that is the center of European civilization, or that is the center of European population, or that is the center of European expansion, you see. So they call it fatherland. Yes. Fatherland for Europe. Right. You see. So now the thing though is that, but Russia have not been concerning our people. Russia have not been the country in Europe that have most oppressed our people. They more so believe that they just wanted to conquer Europe for the most part, while the rest of Europe set their eyes on taking wealth from the rest of the world, and in so doing brought the most oppression to our people. You see. Now we continue here. Go back to wait, where is it at? Let's go back to 38. Okay. Now I will turn you about. Okay, let me back up a little bit. And say, thus says Yahuah Elohim, behold, I am against you, O Gug, prince of Rash, Mashach, and Tubal. I will turn you about and put hooks into your jaws, and I will bring you out and all your army, horses and horsemen, all of them splendidly attired, a great company with buckler and shield, all of them wielding swords. Persia. Now, this is what we must understand, that the other nations, all nations have joined forces against Yashar-al. Now, Persia, which is really Paras. The name of the place is not Persia. It's really Paras. Okay? But all of these places have joined forces with other nations to fight against Yashar-al. So it's not just Yafat, but it's also the other descendants of the nations. You see, the melanated nations have also joined forces to fight against Yashar-al, and have always done so. So so Paras or Persia, okay? Kush, which is what they call Ethiopia, which they changed to Ethiopia, Kush, and Put with them all. These are the African countries. With them all of them, with shield and helmet. You see, family, before I go any further on that, I don't know how many people have seen that episode in that television series. What was the name of that thing? How can I forget it? That African tribe that was very fearsome. What's his name? Can I forget? How can I forget? Zulu. Yes, Shaka Zulu. I don't know how many have seen that episode in Shaka Zulu where they in that series they showed you a part of history, how the Zulus, how they would gather the people of Yashar-al. And you know who they were? Who they show in that television series to be the people of Yashar-al? They didn't show them to be people from the Caucasus. They showed them to be black people. Okay? In that series, Shaka Zulu. They showed the people of Yasharal to be black people. They use the terminology to define them. They say those are the Jews. Okay, that's what they say in that series. But what they show is that what the Zulus did, the Zulus were capturing the people of Yasharal, and then as they were chasing the people of Yasharal to capture them, they chased them into the hand of the European slave traders. So who they didn't capture, they pushed into the hands of the European slave traders. And they would trade our people with the European slave traders for guns and for alcohol and for other things, you see. Okay, YouTube is back to not working. Yes, I see. We've been having trouble all evening with that, Aki. Sorry for the inconvenience there. Yes, so, the nations of the land of Ham, the African continent, have worked with the nations of Yafat to enslave the people of Yasharal, you see. Now, verse 6, Gamar. Who is Gamar? A direct descendant of Yafat. Gamar with all its troops. But Tagarma from the remote parts of the north with all its troops. Many peoples with you. These are all descendants of Yafat, European nations. Be prepared and prepare yourself, you and all your companies that are assembled about you, and be a guard for them. My computer is moving a little bit slow here. After many days, you will be summoned. In the latter years, you will come into the land that is restored from the sword. So this is what's going to happen, family. So after Yahuah restores his people, after he comes and he gathers his people and he sets up his millennial reign and the people are in the land, when this is what's going to happen. The European nations are once again going to come in. They're going to grab their weapons and they're going to come into the land. After Yasharal have been dwelling in safety for some time, they're going to come in because they're going to say it's time to re-enslave these people. It's time to take them back. So they're going to come into the land. But what they don't realize and what they won't realize is that they're actually marching to their destruction. That they're marching to their destruction. And so Yahuah will summon them. They will think that it's their own scheme that bring them to this place. But Yahuah will summon them. Yahuah says that he will summon them. And in the latter years you will come into the land that is restored from the sword, whose inhabitants have been gathered from many nations to the mountains of Yasharal, which have been a continual waste. But its people were brought out from the nations, and they are living securely, all of them. You will go, nations of Europe. You will go up. You will come like a storm. You will be like a cloud covering the land. You and all your troops, and many peoples with you. Okay, you and all your troops, and many peoples with you, nations of Europe. Thus says Yahuah, the Elohim. Thus says Yahuah Elohim, it will come about on that day that thoughts will come into your mind, and you will devise an evil plan. And you will say, I will go up against the land of unwalled villages. I will go against those who are at rest, that live securely, all of them living without walls and having no bars or gates. To capture spoil and to seize plunder, to turn your hand against the waste places which are now inhabited, and against the people who are gathered from the nations, who have acquired cattle and goods, who live at the center of the world. You know, literally, that the land of Yasharal is at the center of the world geographically. It's at the center of the earth geographically. Who live at the center of the world? Shabah and Dadan and the merchants of Tarshish with all its villages will say to you, have you come to capture spoil? Have you assembled your company to seize plunder, to carry away silver and gold, to take away cattle and goods, to capture great spoil? Therefore prophesy, Son of man, and say to Gog or Gog, this says Yahuah Elohim, on that day when my people, Yasharal, are living securely, will you not know it? You will come from your place out of the remote parts of the north, you and many peoples with you, all of them riding on horses, a great assembly and a mighty army. And you will come up against my people Yasharal like a cloud to cover the land. It shall come about in the last days that I will bring you against my land, so that the nations may know, may know me, when I am sanctified, when I'm set apart through you before their eyes, O Gog. When I am made esteemed through you. Thus says Yahuah Elohim, are you the one of whom I spoke in former days through my servants the prophets of Yasharal, who prophesied in those days for many years that I would bring you against them? It will come about on that day, when Gog comes against the land of Yasharal, declares Yahuah Elohim, that my fury will mount up in my anger, in my zeal, and in my blazing wrath. I declare that on that day there will surely be a great earthquake in the land. This computer is acting slow here, family. Bear with me. The fish of the sea, the birds of Shamayim, the beast of the field, all the creeping things that creep on the earth, and all the men who are on the face of the earth will shake at my presence. The mountains also will be thrown down, the steep pathways will collapse, and every wall will fall on the ground. I will call for a sword against him on all my mountains, declares Yahuah Elohim. Every man's sword will be against his brother. Every man's sword will be against his brother. The wicked will turn on themselves. Having a tough time here. Computer is just acting pretty weird. Let me change how I'm reading. So verse 20, so that the fish of the sea and the birds of Shamayim and the beast of the field and all the creeping creatures that creep on the earth and all men who are on the face of the earth shall shake at my presence. And the mountains shall be thrown down and the steep places shall fall and every wall fall to the ground. And I shall call for a sword against Gog on all my mountains, declares the sovereign Yahuah, the sword of each one being against his brother. And I shall judge him with pestilence and blood, and rain down flooding rain, and hailstones, fire and sulfur on him, and on his bands, and on the many peoples who are with him. And I shall exalt myself, and set myself apart, and I shall be known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am Yahuah. Just as when Yahuah delivered his people out of Mitzrayim, how all surrounding nations knew that he was Yahuah and that we were his people because he defended his people. He fought on behalf of his people and he gave his people victory in battle. And you, son of man, prophesy against Gog and
This
say,
conference is being recorded.
That's interesting. I guess Fuse might have, I don't know what Fuse did there. Let me just check to see if we're still good. Bear with me just for a second, family. Okay. All right, just want to make sure we're still good. Okay, now let's go back. Let's go back. Okay, wait. Are you able to hear me, family? No audio? Wow. Having a hard time here this evening. Not just from YouTube, but also on Fuse. All right. Okay. Not sure if the family can hear me. Can you hear me, family? No sound. No sound. Okay. Let me try something. Bear with me. I'll try something. Okay. Can you hear me, family? My mic, I just noticed that my mic was muted, even though I didn't mute it. Okay. All right, great. Yes, my mic was muted even though I didn't mute it. Yeah. Okay, can you hear me, family? I get a 1 from everyone if you can hear me. Okay. How long was the mic muted, Mashpaka? How long? Has it been a while since it's been muted here on Fuse? Akut Yisraela is still having trouble hearing. Maybe 3 minutes. Wow. Wow. Okay, 1 minute for Akut Atalia. All right. Yeah, so we're having some challenges here on this evening, not just on YouTube, but also on Fuse. I wonder if it's just purely coincidence. Okay. All right, so we're going to continue. All right. Where are we at? Chapter 39 of the book of Yahuah. And you, son of man, prophesy against Gog, and say, and you shall say, thus said the sovereign Yahuah, see, I am against you, O Gog, the prince of Rosh Mashach. And remember now, these are all descendants of Yaphat, which makes them European nations, and shall turn you, not just Russia, but European nations, and shall turn you around and lead you on, and bring you up from the uttermost parts of the north, from all over the north country, and bring you against the mountains of Yasharal. You know, that's interesting. They call Europe the West. But is that so? They call Europe the West. But is that so? Aren't they the North country? You see. Now, no, not up yet. Not up yet, Akut. Not up yet. Okay, not up yet. But I'll be working on that. And shall, okay? Now, so, and you, son of man, prophesy against Gog, and shall say, thus says the sovereign Yahuah, see, I am against you, O Gog, the prince of Rosh, Mashach, and Tubal, and shall turn you around and lead you on, and bring you up from the uttermost parts of the north, and bring you against the mountains of Yasharal, and shall smite the bow out of your left hand, and make the arrows fall from your right hand. On the mountains of Yasharal you shall fall, you and all your bands and the peoples who are with you. To the birds of prey of every sort, and to the beast of the field I shall give you for food. On the face of the field you shall fall, for I have spoken, declares the sovereign Yahuah. And I shall send fire upon Magog and on those who live undisturbed in the coastlands. Let me ask you this, family. When the scriptures speak about the coastlands, what does it speak of? You find this in the book of Numbers, the book of Bamadabar, when he speaks about the coastlands. Who do he speak of when the scriptures, when Yahuah speak of the coastlands? Who does he speak of when he speaks of the coastlands? You know who he speaks of? He speaks of the European nations. You see? He speaks of Yafat when he speaks of the coastlands. Okay, so where are the enemies of Yasharal located? In the north along the coastlands, European nations. And I shall send fire upon Magog and on those who live undisturbed in the coastlands. And they shall know that I am Yahuah. And I shall make my set apart name known in the midst of my people Yasharal, and not let my set apart name be profaned any more. And the heathen shall know that I am Yahuah, the set apart one in Yasharal. See, it shall come, and it shall be done, declares the sovereign Yahuah. This is the day of which I have spoken. And those who inhabit the cities of Yasharal shall go out and set on fire and burn the weapons, both the shields and armor, the bows and arrows, the clubs and spears, and they shall make fire with them for 7 years, and take no wood from the field, nor cut down any from the forest, for with the weapons they make fire. And they shall plunder those who plundered them, and loot those who looted them, declares the sovereign Yahuah. You hear what Yahuah's words say? You know, it's amazing. Christianity read the book that we read, right? They read this book. They read these texts that we read, right? But you know what's interesting about Christianity? Something interesting about Christianity is that of all the times you've been in church, you never hear a Christian pastor say that those who have been enslaved, that they will be enslaved. Those who have looted, that they will be looted. You never hear that said, even though it's written throughout the scriptures. You never hear that said. I wonder why. Why do they shun it? Is it because they dread their fate? They dread what is going to come to them? Because there are those in Christianity who know that Christianity and Judaism is made up. There are those who know. And then you have the followers who don't know anything. They just follow. But there are those who know. And those who know do not desire nor wish to come to terms with these things. And so what they'll try to do is, anybody who speak about this, they say, oh, you're filled with hatred. That's, you know, it's a part of the scripture. What does Yahuah say will happen to those who have ravaged his people, to those who have enslaved his people, to those who have tortured his people, to those who have murdered his people? You know what Yahuah says? Yahuwah says that he will even take their babies and dash their heads against stones. That's what Yahuwah says. In the book of Tehillim, that's in Psalms 137, that those who have done wickedly to the people of Yasharal, that they'll even dash their babies' heads against stones. That's what Yahuwah said. That's Yahuwah's word. You see. What does he say here? He says, and it shall be on that day that I give Gog a burial site. Let me back up for a little bit. Verse 10, and take no wood from the field, nor cut down any from the forest, for with the weapons they make fire. And they shall plunder those who plundered them, and they shall plunder. Yasharal shall plunder those who plundered them, and loot those who looted them, declares the sovereign Yahuwah. And it shall be on that day that I give Gog a burial site there in Yasharal. The only place they'll have in Yasharal is a burial site. The valley of those passing by east of the sea, and stopping those passing by, because they shall bury Gog and all his crowd, and shall call the valley of Hamun Gog. And the house of Yasharal shall bury them for 7 months, in order to cleanse the land. And all the people of the land shall bury them. And it shall be for a name to them on the day that I am esteemed, declares the sovereign Yahuwah. And they shall separate men who continually pass through the land, buying those who were passing through, those left on the surface of the ground, in order to cleanse it. Burying those who were passing through, those left on the surface of the ground, in order to cleanse it. At the end of 7 months they shall search, and those passing through shall pass through the land. And when anyone sees a man's bone, he shall set up a sign beside it, till the buriers have buried it in the valley of Hamungag. And also a city named Hamunah shall be there. So they shall cleanse the land. And you, son of man, thus says the sovereign Yahuwah, speak to every sort of bird, and to every beast of the field, assemble yourselves and come, gather from all around to my offering which I am slaughtering for you, a great offering on the mountains of Yasharal, and you shall eat flesh and drink blood. Eat the flesh of the mighty, drink the blood of the princes of the earth, of rams and lambs, of goats and bulls, all of them fatlings of Bashan. And you shall eat fat till you are filled, and drink blood till you are drunk at my offering, which I am slaughtering for you. Just in case anybody don't understand, this is talking about the birds. Yahuwah is sanctioning the birds, the crows, to eat their bodies after they have come against Yasharal, after Yasharal have been regathered to their land. Yahuwah will make a great slaughtering of the wicked, and you shall be satisfied at my table with horses and riders, with mighty men, and with all the men of battle, declares the sovereign Yahuwah. And I shall set my esteem among the heathen, and all heathen shall see my judgment which I have executed, and my hand which I have laid on them. And the house of Yasharal shall know that I am Yahuwah their Alakim from that day onward. And the heathen shall know that the house of Yasharal went into captivity for their crookedness, because they have trespassed against me, so that I hid my face from them, and I gave them into the hand of their adversaries, and they all fell by the sword. It is then that the wicked will understand that the only reason why that they have been able to be victorious over us is because of our disobedience. It is only then that the wicked, the heathen nations will understand that the only reason why they have been victorious over us is because of our disobedience. If we have not been disobedient, then no nation on the face of the earth would have been able to enslave us. No nation would have been able to put us on ships and to feed us to sharks. No nation would have been able to rape our women and our children. No nation would have been able to rape our men and put our people to shame. No nation would have been able to force us to deny our Creator and to call upon their idols, but for our disobedience. We suffered. And I shall set my esteem among the heathen, and all heathen shall see my judgment which I have executed, and my hand which I have laid on them. And the house of Yasharal shall know that I am Yahuah their Elohim from that day onward. And the heathen shall know that the house of Yasharal went into captivity for their crookedness, because they have trespassed against me, so that I hid my face from them, and I gave them into the hand of their adversaries, and they all fell by the sword. According to their uncleanness and according to their transgressions, I have dealt with them, my people Yasharal, and hidden my face from them. So there came a point, there was a time, and there has been a time where Yahuah hid his face from his people. I want to stop there for a moment, family. I want to stop there for a moment because Christianity have messed us up even concerning that. Christianity have messed us up even concerning that. You see, there is something that we must understand, family. There is something that we must understand. Yahuah says, for a lack of knowledge, my people perish. Because of disobedience, my people perish. I know that it's something difficult for us to accept. When to think of the fact that for hundreds of years and even thousands of years, that generation upon generation of our people, our ancestors, just simply perished. They perished not knowing Yahuah. They perished in disobedience. They simply perished. You see, that's what the curse is about. The curse is a curse of destruction. And when we go against the ways of Yahuah, Yahuah brings destruction upon his people. You see, when we deliberately and willfully say that we do not want you in our lives, Yahuah give us over to ourselves. And when he give us over to ourselves, we then expose ourselves to the adversary. And the adversary have his way with us. And so, the reality is, the fact of the matter is, that we have family members. We have family members, immediate, recent, and past. And foreparents from a long ago. Many generations of them who simply perished. Why? Why did they perish? Why have they perished? And why do our people continue to perish even right now? Why? Why? Number one, because we were disobedient, because we were rebellious against Yahuah, and as a result of our grievous disobedience and our grievous rebellion, what did Yahuah do? What did Yahuah do? He said he hid his face from us. He hid his face from us. I'm going to go to some scriptures that Yahuah took my Akut Amuna to, as she was, she became really grieved and angered over that situation of a little while back, a few months back, where the police just killed that man out there in excuse me, have a seat. Where the police just killed that man out there in where was that at? In Oklahoma. Where the police just killed that man in Oklahoma, for no reason, as they always do. And our Akut was quite grieved. And so grieved, and I can relate because I get angry sometimes when I see the injustice. I get angry when I see the injustice. You see? I get angry when I see the injustice. I really do. I get angry. This month, and I forget, it just recently marked 5 years since the murder of Trayvon Martin. 5 years. And even though it was clearly murder, a racist justice system applauded his murderer and let him walk. It's been 5 years since the murder of Trayvon Martin. And since Trayvon Martin, there have been dozens of other murders by the police, and the racist justice system applaud them, congratulate them, pay them, and let them walk. Sandra Bland. Oh boy, the names are pretty endless. Now, we can think back to just a few short years. We can think back to just a few short years, and the list is astounding. But what if we should go back to the beginning of our captivity here in the nations of Europe? What if we should go back to the beginning? You know, the numbers are in the millions. Easily. The numbers are in the millions. Easily. Millions. Not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but in the millions. No exaggeration. In the millions. You see. So what's happening is nothing new. What's happening did not just get started. What's happening have been going on for a long time, and it is the norm. The Constitution of the United States defines us as not people, but property. It says that we are only 3/5 human. Hence, we should be treated like an ass is treated, like cattle is treated. We should be treated no differently. And if we were treated even the way they treat their animals, we would be doing good. If we were to be treated, if we were to be treated even the way they treat their dogs, we would be doing quite great. At least not at least, but their dogs sleep in their beds with them. Their dogs have doggy insurance. They say we shouldn't get none. Their dogs have privileges that they don't think that we should have. But that's nothing new. The way it's always been. You see, that's the way it's always been. But what brought that on, family? Let us not lose sight of what brought all that on. This is what brought that on. I'm reading from my Akut Amuna's letter where Yahuah spoke to her. Yahuah spoke to her in her anger over the treatment of her people. Yahuah reminded her. You see, Yahuah reminded her. And this is what Yahuah said. This is what he brought her to. Lamentations chapter 2 and verse 3. In fierce anger, he has cut off all the strength of Yasharal. He has drawn back his right hand from before the enemy. He has drawn back his right hand from before the enemy. And he has burned in Yahuah like a flaming fire, consuming round about. Lamentations chapter 4 and verse 6. For the transgression of the daughter of my people is greater than the transgression of Saddam. My heart fell, she said, when I read that. How horribly wicked we have been. You see, that's the reality. What we go through was brought on by our own disobedience. It really was. That's not giving the wicked a pass. That's just taking ownership of our wickedness. You see. Oh, I'm sorry, Coots. Yeah. Oh, wait. Let me read it again. Let me read it again. So Akut Amuna, Yahuah took her to the book of Lamentations. Lamentations chapter 2 and verse 3 reads, in fierce anger he has cut off all the strength of Yasharal. He has drawn back his right hand from before the enemy. He has drawn back his right hand from before the enemy. That's the only reason why they could do the things they do, because he has drawn back his right hand from before the enemy. And he has burned in Yahuah like a flaming fire, consuming round about. Lamentations chapter 4 and verse 6. For the transgression of the daughter of my people is greater than the transgression of Sodom and Gomorrah. My heart fell when I read that. How horribly wicked we have been. Lamentations, where the prophet was crying out for his people, and where Yahuah, where he was recalling why it is that the people of Yasharal were suffering the way they were and are suffering the way we are. So the reality is, family, that the fact of the matter is, even though we might want to put our people in the kingdom, we want to put our ancestors in the kingdom, we want to put our loved ones in the kingdom, those that we know and, you know, had the opportunity to grow up with, or those who raised us. We say, well, you know, they went to church, they were good people. But what does Yahuah say about that? Yahuah said, that's not my way. You have learned the ways of the heathen. In the book of Yahusha, what they call Hosea, what Yahuah says is, the day will come when I'm going to cleanse your lips, where you will no longer call upon Baal. You will no longer call Baal your mighty one, but you will say that I, Yahuah, I am your husband. You see. So what has happened? Yahuah has hidden his face from his people. And so what's happening now is that he is turning his face back to his people and turning the heart of his people back to himself. And you may have heard me said in the past that you read in the book, while we were in church, you know, in church, they go to the book of Malachi, where it says that he will turn the hearts of it's actually a bad translation. The corrupt translators translated to say that he will turn the hearts of the fathers back to the children and the heart of the children back to their fathers. That's not what it should say. That's a corrupt translation. That's a wrong translation. That's not what it says in the scriptures. What it says is that Abba Yahuah, Father Yahuah, will turn his heart back to his children and turn the heart of his children back to him. It don't say that in the last days that he will turn the heart of children to their fathers and heart of fathers to their children. That's not what it says. That would be a contradiction of scripture. Because Yahuah also says that in the last days that there will be houses divided, that there would be father against sons and mother against daughter. You see? So that would be a contradiction. You see, that's not what it says. What it says is what Yahuah promised, that he will turn his face back to his children and turn the heart of his children back to him. You see? Yes, indeed. Full participation in idolatry from time past and still to this very day. That's what we have been involved in. So many of our people have perished in that way. Therefore, thus says the sovereign Yahuah, now I am going to bring back the captives of Yaakov, and I shall have compassion on all the house of Yasharal, and shall be jealous for my set apart name, and they shall have borne their shame, and all their trespass they committed against me, when they dwell safely in their own land, with none to make them afraid. There will come a time when there'll be none to make us afraid. You know, family, there is not a single person of Yasharal who can honestly say, if you talk to any one of us, I'm talking about the natural seed of Yasharal now, and anybody who are grafted in, and if you're riding with Yasharal, beware. You see, because they'll do the same thing to you that they have done to us, and they have done the same thing to you as they have done to us. Anyone who side with the people of Yahuah, you can expect the same treatment. You see. Now, to be quite honest, there are places where I live. There are towns, little townships in the state where I live that I will not ride into here in the year of 2017. In the state where I live, there are little towns that I will not ride into. You know why? Because hateful people are still alive and kicking, still hunting. And that's not limited to where I live. Our people are still living in fear. And we now have a so-called president. I'm going to call him that. That's what he called other people who disagree with him. Call them so-called judges and so-called this and so-called that. We now have a so-called president who have even invited the KKK to have an office next to his office in the White House. You see, that man Banner, whatever his name is, he called himself the alt-right. That's what they call themselves now. You know what the alt-right is? You know what the alt-right is? They're not calling themselves the KKK anymore. They call themselves the alt-right. This is what they call themselves now. The alt-right. And the man that Donald Trump put in the White House next to him, I'm not talking about the vice president. I forget what this guy's title is. Banner or whatever his name is. He called himself the alt-right. He's a part of the alt-right. He gives voice to the alt-right. Do you know what the alt-right is? The alt-right is simply the new name for the KKK. It is the new name for the KKK. The alt-right is the KKK rebranded. The KKK rebranded. Rebranded. The KKK rebranded. What about Mr. Kuhn Carson? You know, there have always been those stupid enough to cast their lots with the enemy. That have always been the case. The KKK, through their history, will point to black people who were members of the KKK. And you have black people to this very day who wave the Confederate flag and say that it's a part of their heritage. How stupid can you be? How much of a nincompoop can you be? How much of a whatever can you be? So we have a so-called president that have actually elevated this kind of this terrorist organization to a level, even though the fact of the matter is, this is going to be hard for some people to swallow, but I gotta speak the truth. It's the truth. It's just the truth. History shows us. The fact of the matter is that America, from its very beginning, has been a terrorist state. Okay? From its very beginning, it's been a terrorist state. It was a terror to the Indians. It was a terror to black people. It's been a terrorist state from the very beginning. The only difference is that the state would never classify itself as such. It classify other people as such, but it would never classify itself as such. You see, would never classify itself as such. George Washington, who is so much celebrated, George Washington owned around 300 slaves. And history says that George Washington, for a time, lived in Philadelphia, because at one time Philadelphia was the capital of the United States, before Washington, D.C. became the capital of the United States. George Washington lived in Philadelphia, but the laws were passed. Yes, certainly wasn't. Philadelphia was supposed to be a slave-free state. And if anybody had slaves at that time living in Philadelphia, if the slaves were with them for 6 consecutive months, then they would have to free the slave in the 6th month. That was the law. Well, to keep his 300 slaves, which he used them in Philadelphia, to keep them, what he would do is he would transport them back and forth. So right before it hit 6 months in Philadelphia, he sent them to his other estate, so they wouldn't be free. He wouldn't have to set them free. George Washington, most celebrated, he owned 300 slaves, raped the women slaves, had about 12 children with slaves, 12 known. Maybe have countless others because he raped the women. But these are our heroes. Now the hypocrisy is that if another country did anything like that, anything close to that, this is the hypocrisy. Those leaders would be classified as all kinds of stuff. But here, they are heroes worthy of esteem. And that's the great hypocrisy. You see. Now, anyway, we continue. And they shall have borne their shame, and they shall have borne their shame, talking about Yasharal, verse 26 of Yakazak 39. And they shall have borne their shame and all their trespass they committed against me, when they dwell safely in their own land, with none to make them afraid. When I have brought them back from the peoples and gathered them out of the lands of their enemies, I shall be set apart in them before the eyes of many heathen. And they shall know that I am Yahuah their Elohim, who sent them into captivity among the heathen, and then gathered them back to their own land, and left none of them behind. And no longer do I hide my face from them, for I shall have poured out my spirit on the house of Yasharal. You see, again the question came up, when will he pour out his spirit upon the house of Yasharal? Remember that question from yesterday, family? Here it is again. When will he pour out his spirit upon them? As we saw the outpouring of the Spirit in the book of Acts, when will that happen again? When we are regathered to the land. That's what Yahuah says. And no longer do I hide my face from them, for I shall have poured out my spirit on the house of Yasharal, declares the sovereign Yahuah. Okay, so Yahuah is going to regather us, and after he regathers us, the wicked are going to think, oh wait, you mean we just lost our slaves? That can't happen. We're going back to get them. And so they're going to go to get us. They're going to come to get us. But then there's going to be a great slaughter in the land. Yahuah is going to call the birds to feast, the animals to feast. There's going to be a great feast. The birds will be drunken with their blood, Yahuah says. Because just like Pharaoh, the wicked will not. Listen, you cannot expect that a people who have benefited from having oppressed the people for so long and having made billions of dollars, no, not even billions, having made trillions of dollars off of us, and still do to this day. Still do to this day. Still do. You know that the average household income of a black person in America is $10,000. Of a black household in America, the average household income of a black household in America today is $10,000. While the average household income, the average I'm talking about, the average household income of a white household is $140,000 today. The average net worth of a white family in America is over, depending on which metrics you use, what's the name? What's the word I'm looking for? There's a word I'm looking for. Can't think of the word right now. But conservatively, a conservative estimate of the average white household net worth, is $350,000. A conservative estimate of the average black household worth in America is less than $20,000. The same house that sells in the ghetto for $20,000 is sold in the suburbs for $350,000. The ghetto did not happen by mistake. The ghetto in America and the ghettos around the world did not happen by mistake. You know who taught America about developing ghettos? And America gave him an award 2 years in a row? Hitler did. You know who taught America about eugenics? And America practiced eugenics on black people? Hitler did. Hitler was America's partner while the focus was on exterminating black people. It only became a problem when Hitler began to mess with the Jews. But before then, Hitler was America's partner. And that's a fact. States of North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, California, they practiced eugenics on a grand scale. They determined somebody to be feeble-minded, as they would put it. And this person should not have any children, so they would just catch them, and in a very inhumane way, they would sterilize them. And they would do all these different things to them. All of this happened because of, nonetheless, because of the disobedience of a people. You see, because of the transgression of a people. And you know what it is? Yahuah didn't go set about and did it. All he did was he just withheld his hand from stopping our enemies. That's all he did. It wasn't he that went out and did all of that to us. We wanted to be in line with the enemy, so he just moved the fence. He got out the way. He was our fence. And he said, you don't want me to be that barrier, to be that guard, to be that protection? Okay, I'm going to get out the way. When he got out the way, that's what happened to us. So we can't blame him for all of these things. That was our choice. But nonetheless, after all of that evil had been done and brought against us, Yahuah says that those who have done this wickedness to us will pay. Let's look at the book of Katsun, Revelation. Let's look at Revelation chapter 19. I'm just going to try to read through it very quickly. Revelation chapter 19 and 20. This is a continuation of what we can be expected as we approach the restoration, in the process of the awakening and restoration and regathering, and what will happen next. Katsun, Revelation chapter 19. And after this I heard a loud voice of a great crowd in Shamayim saying, Halal hu Yahuah, deliverance and esteem and respect and power to Yahuah our Elohim. Because true and set apart are his judgments, because he has judged the great whore, who corrupted the earth with her whoring, and he has avenged on her the blood of his servants shed by her. Who is the great whore? The great whore is Babylon, Mystery Babylon. And Babylon is a three-part system, as we discussed before. It's the church, it's their military, and their judicial, governmental system. And the second time they said, Halal hu Yahuah, and her smoke rises up forever and ever. And the 24 elders and the 4 living creatures fell down and worshipped Elohim, who sat on the throne, saying, Aman, Halal hu Yahu. The voice came from the throne saying, Praise our Elohim, all you servants and those who fear him, both small and great. And I heard as the voice of a great crowd, as the sound of many waters, and as the sound of mighty thunders, saying, Halal hu Yahuah, for Yahuah al-Shaddai reigns. Let us be glad and rejoice and give him praise, for the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his Asha prepared herself, and to her it was given to be dressed in fine linen, clean and bright, for fine linen is the set apartness of the set apart ones. And he said to me, write, Baruch are those who have been called to the marriage supper of the Lamb. And he said to me, these are the true words of Elohim. And I fell at his feet to worship him, but he said to me, see, do not do it. I am your fellow servant, and of your brothers who possess the witness of Yahusha, worship Elohim, for the witness of Yahusha is the spirit of prophecy. And I saw the Shamayim open, and there was a white horse, and he who sat on him was called trustworthy and true, and in righteousness and set apartness he judged and fights. And his eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, having a name that had been written, which no one had perceived except himself. And having been dressed in a robe dipped in blood, and his name is called the Dabar of Yahuah. And the armies of Shamayim, dressed in fine linen, white and clean, followed him on white horses. And out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, and that with it he should smite the nations. And he shall shepherd them with a rod of iron, and he threads the winepresses of the fierceness of wrath of Al-Shadi. And on his robe, and not on his thigh, but on his vesture, he has a name written, Sovereign of Sovereigns, and Master of Masters. And I saw one messenger standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the birds that fly in the mid of Shamayim, come and gather together for the supper of the great Elohim, to eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of commanders, and the flesh of strong ones, and the flesh of horses, and those who sit on them, and the flesh of all people, free and slave, both small and great. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to fight him who sat on the horse and his army. So who did he see? He saw the beast. We talked about this already, who the beast is. We talked about it. We haven't gone in great depth. The beast and the false prophet, Babylon, we talk about that. So remember now. Remember what I said when we started? Throw away those myths from Christianity about Russia. Okay? Who is the leader of Gog and Magog? Who is the beast? The beast is the leader. Okay? So, again, European nations. But who is the leader of the European nations? Well, America right now. America is the leader, you see. Now, and I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to fight him. In the book of Ashdras, she is identified as an eagle. Not by coincidence, right? Gathered together to fight him who sat on the horse and his army. And the beast was seized, and with him the false prophet who worked signs in his presence, by which he led astray those who received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. You know what the image of the beast is? That image that they have given to us, Jesus. The two were thrown alive into the lake of fire burning with sulfur. And the rest were killed with sword which came from the mouth of him who sat on the horse. And all the birds were filled with their flesh. Chapter 20. And I saw a messenger coming down from Shamayim, having the key to the pit of the deep and the great chain in his hand. And he seized the dragon, the serpent of old, who is devil don't belong there. The word, let me go to the Greek for a second. Where is it at? Let's go here because the way they have this one laid out. Diablos, when you see devil, it comes from Diablos, which is actually from Greek mythology. It's they don't give it here. I gotta find it somewhere else. What it means actually is like an accuser, a persecutor of the people. But it's a legal terminology. The original sense of it is a legal terminology. It points to the judicial system, basically abusing the people of Yahuah. Where we at? And Shaitan, and bound him for 1,000 years. And he threw him into the pit of the deep, and shut him up, and set a seal on him, so that he should lead the nations no more astray, until the 1,000 years was ended. And after that he has to be released for a little while. And I saw thrones, and they that sat on them, and judgment was given to them, and the lives of those who had been beheaded because of the witness they bore to Yahusha, and because of the word of Elohim, and who did not worship the beast nor his image, and did not receive his mark upon their foreheads or upon their hands, and they lived and reigned with Mashiach for 1,000 years. So great persecution will come at some point after our awakening, because the wicked will not want to see us go. He will not want to see us awaken. And the rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years were ended. This is the first resurrection. Baruch and set apart is the one having part in the first resurrection. The first resurrection, going back to the book of Thessalonians. The second death possesses no authority over these, but they shall be priests of Elohim and of Mashiach. Of Elohim HaMashiach, not and of Mashiach. There is no separation between Elohim and Mashiach. And shall reign with him, not with them, notice that, shall reign with him 1,000 years. If the way they put the and in there, those conjunctions I warn you about. And if that's the case, then if there's Elohim and then there is Mashiach, why did it come back to saying, why didn't it say with them? Why did it go back to saying with him? And when the 1,000 years have ended, Shaitan shall be released from his prison, and he shall go out to lead the nations astray, which are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together for battle, whose number is as the sand of the sea. Now, what's interesting here is that Gog and Magog here now is not limited just to the European nations, but from the four corners of the earth, from the borders of the earth. In other words, all the nations will join together to fight against Yahuah and his people. And they came up over the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of the set-apart ones and the beloved city. That's what we just read in the book of Yakazakal. And fire came down from Elohim out of Shamayim and consumed them. And the accuser who led them astray was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet are, and they shall be tortured day and night forever until that changes. That's what that is. Hell, the idea of hell is not according to the scriptures either. And I saw a great white throne. The wicked will be judged and the wicked will be destroyed, but not in the sense that we have been taught in Christianity about hell. And I saw a great white throne, and him who was sitting on it, from whose face the earth and the Shamayim fled away, and no place was found for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before the throne, and books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged from what was written in the books according to their works. And the sea gave up her dead who were in it, and death and the grave gave up the dead who were in them. Notice, Death and the grave gave up the dead who were in them. Christianity says that when a person dies, they either go to hell or they go to heaven. Why didn't it say that heaven and hell gave up the dead that were in them? Why does it say death and the grave gave up the dead that were in them if the Christian doctrine is in fact correct? Christianity says that when a person dies, if you're not a Christian, you go to hell. And if you're a Christian, you go to heaven, and there's a big party in heaven, you see. But that's not what we read. Okay? Now, and the sea gave up the dead who were in it, and death and the grave gave up the dead who were in them, and they were judged, each one according to his works. And the death and the grave were thrown into the lake of fire. This is the second death. Yahuah will destroy death. And if anyone was not found written in the book of life, he was thrown into the lake of fire. All right, thrown into destruction. Okay, so we're going to stop there, family. Again, as we look at, according to the scriptures, the unfolding of the end times, there comes a time of the awakening, there comes a time of substance returning to the people, and then there comes a time where the wicked will rise up again in persecution against the people of Yahuah. Yahuah will defend his people, he will fight for his people. There will be a great slaughtering, and then comes the final judgment. There comes a time where the millennial reign goes on, where Yahuah arrests the wicked for a time, and Yasharal have shalom for quite a while, and then the wicked is released, and then they gather themselves against the nation of Yasharal, and there is the final judgment where Yahuah destroys the wicked, and the wicked is no more. All right, well, we're going to stop there, family, and want to open up the mic to any comments or questions, and then we'll close out after. Once again, I want to say to the Rabbah for your patience, Mashpaka, and in spite of all of the challenges we have had this evening, I want to say to the for being patient and for hanging in there. Let me go to my Aki Damon. Please go ahead, Aki.
Shalom, Aki.
Shalom to you, Aki. Shalom.
Shalom, Asmaka. Just wanted to say this is an interesting study. Just full of clarity in a lot of things that like you said, a lot of things that I heard before through Christianity, and so this is actually a good study for me. And I just can't wait until next time we meet up. So I want to say shalom to my kind. I love you, love y'all, and I'll see y'all soon.
Praise Yahuah.
Praise Yahuah.
Praise Yahuah. Love and appreciate you also, my Aki. Much ahab to you also. Praise Yahuah. All right. Any other comments or questions, family, before we close out on this evening? All right. Well, to Yahuah once again be all esteem. Love and appreciate you all, family. May Yahuah be esteemed. And again, we apologize for the difficulties that we've been experiencing this evening. But again, Yahuah be esteemed, and he saw us through it. And I'm sure not everyone who would normally, participate in the study and fellowship were able to do so this evening because of the issues with YouTube. But nonetheless, we give Yahuah praise. The recording will be on Facebook, but not on YouTube in this case. Praise Yahuah. Tuda Rabbah, Aki, Akut. Praise Yahuah. Family, we're gonna let me go to it might be Akut Shar or Aki Rob. Let's see. Go ahead, Mashpaka.
Can I be heard, Aki?
Oh, yes, you can, Aki. Shalom.
Shalom, Aki. Hey, first and foremost, just excruciatingly informative lesson, and thank you. I mean, tuda. But Key, I was listening to yesterday's session that you had, and my Asha and I have been really discussing this because, with respect to getting buried,
Yeah.
and you know, I don't want to be put in a casket. You know, I want to go straight into the ground. And I told I told my wife to just put me in the backyard. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, but I mean, what are the in all due respect, what are the ramifications involving something like that? You know, Shay and I were discussing that we're going to put it in writing exactly how we want to be. You know, buried and how we want it handled, so there's no misunderstanding.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know, they have everything is so materialistic, you know, that
Yes.
they want you to go through this procedure or that procedure with respect to, you know, caskets or ceremonies or all that kind of crap. But you know, I mean, to me, just a few words said and put me in the backyard, put me in the ground. I don't need to be put in anything. I mean, but I mean, just if you could expound on that a little for us. And I know you're tired, but again, I'll release the mic and thank you so much for just being you.
Praise Yahuah, Aki, to the well, as far as the backyard, that's going to be out of the question, Aki. They won't allow that. But there are what they call green cemeteries, and they're becoming more popular because, you know, it's the natural way of burial. The scriptural way of burial is actually the more environmental friendly way of burial. No embalming, no casket, so on and so forth. That's the what they're waking up to, is realizing that this is the most planet friendly way of burial. But they won't allow you to be buried in your backyard in that way, as in particular. I don't know if, and they, in some cases, they wouldn't even allow you to be buried in the backyard, even if you were being buried in a casket, because of zoning laws and things like that. But there are what they call green cemeteries. Unfortunately, so they tack on green to it, and once they tack on green to it, that puts up the price already tremendously. Just the word green, just putting the word green on it, and that shoots up the price tremendously already. The other thing too is that it's important for us to know and understand that, yes, they're gonna take your body to a funeral home, and really, well, the laws of this land, they're not going to let you stay at home, because you do have, I remember when I was a kid growing up, when our elders died, I was living in Jamaica. When our elders died, they didn't go to the funeral home. They stayed in the house, and of course it didn't take long to bury them, but they would you know, they would put what you call what's the words I'm looking for, things on them, like perfume and stuff. Just perfume the body, stuff that preserves the body, you know. Not embalming, just preserving, rubbing the body with oils and fragrances that preserves the body, just until you know, the grave digging. And in some cases where it becomes evident that the person was going, the grave digging would begin, you see. Yes, they would use different things, mothballs, along with different ointments and fragrances, but the body would stay there in the house, but the funeral would be quick also. But here they're going to require that the moment that person dies, he's got to go to a funeral home, or you know, that person has to be taken to a funeral home. But what is important for us to know is that even though your loved one is taken to a funeral home, that they cannot make you have any kind of religious ceremony. They can't make you do that. They would like to make you think that you have to, but they cannot make you do that. That determination is really up to you. You see, if they ask you if you need a pastor, no, I don't need a pastor. If they ask you if you need a pastor, if they provide a pastor, that's a few $1,000s more added to the bill. If you go get a pastor, some pastors, they're going to give you a cost up front, and or some are going to say, give us a love offering. Bottom line is, why would I need a pastor? You see, because that's not my way of life. That's not my way of living. That's not according to my belief. You see. So it is important for us to know that even though they'll try to make you think that you need this and you need that and you need the other, bottom line is you don't need none of it. They'll make you think you need a casket. You don't need it. You see what I'm saying? And again, for our son, what we did was we wrapped him in linen, as the scripture says. We washed him. We went and we washed him, and we wrapped him ourselves, and we laid him in the ground wrapped in linen. Okay, so so you don't need none of that. They'll try to make you think you need it, but you don't need it. But again, it's important to put those things in writing, get them notarized, make up a trust, and they have different documentation where you can use to express what it is exactly that you want how you want things to be, and especially when you're dealing with people who are always trying to manipulate and trying to make a few extra bucks off of the unsuspecting. It's important to have those things clearly stated. So a key, unfortunately though, the backyard won't be an option. They won't allow it, a key.
Good luck, Logan. A key?
Yes.
Can I be heard?
Yeah. Oh yes. Oh yes.
Well, I guess the backyard won't be appropriate, but thank you again for the information. And again, it just gave my wife and I, because we never really contemplated that, and it's something that's so important and imperative, and because obviously we don't want a pastor, and we don't want to go through the undue expense, of having all this funeral crap.
Yes.
Nor because obviously we don't attend funerals, we don't attend weddings, so nor do we want that, for us when the time comes that Yahuah takes us.
Yes.
But it's just one of those things that, when I was listening to your tape from yesterday, it was like a light went off, and then and my wife was the one that forwarded to me, hey, look, we need to put this in writing. We need to make sure that this is steadfast. And there's just so many things that sometimes we as human beings don't even contemplate, and it's they're important. I mean, it's our belief.
Yes.
And I can't overemphasize, my condolences for your loss, and you bringing up what transpired with your son, and because that's the way Shay and I want to be buried as well, and so again, thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for making the light bulb go off in our heads, and just I want to tell the Mishpachah that I love you all, and I pray for you all every day, and just let's go forward and not backwards, because every day is a new awakening, and there's always a new foundation, and something new that we're learning, and we want to always continue. One thing that my dad always told me is they're just be open-minded, because you're going to try to learn everything, try to learn something new every day, and especially when you're walking in this faith, it's incredible, because the lies that we've been taught, and I mean our whole indoctrination, our history, everything that we know is, I hate to use that analogy, but it's like the Matrix.
Yes.
You wake up and you find out that your whole life is a lie, that your history is a lie, what you've been taught in school is a lie. And the most imperative thing, the most important thing, your faith to Father above,
Yeah.
has just totally been misinterpreted, and we've been lied to.
Yes.
And like when you were talking about the New Testament, I mean, how can you really believe anything you read in that book?
Yeah.
I mean, when you really think about it, Aki,
Yeah.
I mean, it makes just, and again, I hate to go on and on and on, but it's a travesty.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
and it's upsetting, and it makes you angry.
Yeah.
Because the thing that makes me angry is that I've got 3 children that I taught this crap to,
Yeah.
because I thought it was the right thing to do, and now I got to try to undo the wrong, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
I'll release the mic. Sorry to be so long-winded.
No, I understand, Aki. I understand, and I appreciate your words. I appreciate your words. It is sad, and it is grievous, and it does cause us to be angered. When you think that somebody would sit back and a bunch of people would come together and decide to mislead people in that way, because what's important is what they want. They want men to follow their orders. You see, they desire to take the esteem of the Creator, and that's why they do what they do, so they can sit back and feel important and feel good about, look at that. Look how many people we have following our way, you see. That's Shaitan. That's what he's intended to do, you see. Nonetheless, family, once again, I want to say to the Rabbah for your time, to the Aki and Aki Damon, Aki Rob, and the rest of the family for your input throughout. I want to say to the one quick thing I want to say to the family. I just want to acknowledge very quickly here before I go. I want to say that I truly give Yahuah praise, honor, and esteem. We talk about Rob, repairers of the breach. And I want to give a quick announcement to the family. So this past Friday was the official start date of Rob, repairers of the breach. And I must announce to you, family, that at this point we have $335 in deposits to the account, and that's just to me, that's just really amazing. And I want to share something. Praise Yahuah, Kut Joan, praise Father. I want to share something with you, and I just responded to my Akut Amuna. Wrote her letter back today, but I didn't mail it yet. It'll be in the mail tomorrow, Akut. And in my letter, I said, I hope you don't mind me sharing this with the family. But the letter didn't get to you yet, and here I am. I'm sharing. I just have to share this beautiful vision that Yahuah gave to our Akut. I've just got to share it with the family. Yahuah is just a vision that Yahuah gave her, but when I read it, I saw it as a banner for Rob. Okay, I saw it as a banner for Rob. I'm going to read the vision that Yahuah gave her. She just shared with me this vision that Yahuah gave her, and I'm going to read it. No, that's okay, Akut. I needed to respond. Now let me find the page here. So she titled this vision, she titled it A Glimpse of Home. A Glimpse of Home. While in prayer, my Ruach sensed very strongly that Yahuah Ruach wanted me to be quiet and listen. This is what Abba Yahuah showed me. Now she wanted to know, basically she wanted to make sure that this wasn't coming from her own heart, and so she was quite concerned, needing to make sure that she was actually seeing from Yahuah. But this is the vision. Listen to this, family. It was a very beautiful place, filled with lots of trees and many luscious fields growing various kinds of food. Everyone was busy working. Some people were in the fields gathering grains, fruits, and vegetables, and others were bringing into the storage houses, what the others had harvested. Then shofar sounded, and everyone stopped what they were doing and turned in the direction of where the shofar had sounded to see what was going on. All of a sudden, a very loud blast that sounded like a volcano erupting, but it was a mighty rushing wind coming down towards everyone. When the wind got to everyone, it was a very gentle breeze. It was the breath of Yahuah. Hallelujah. Everyone breathed in, and when everyone exhaled, praises to Yahuah came out. That's just beautiful. That's just beautiful. And so that she was in prayer, and that was a vision that Yahuah gave her during her time of prayer. And I thought that was just amazing and beautiful. And as I read it, I said, I've got to find somebody to put this in picture, to draw a picture of this beautiful vision. And I want it to be the banner for Rob, Restorers of the Breach. But that was just really, really beautiful. So Akut, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I just had to share that. It was just truly a baraka to me reading it. Praise Yahuah. Well, family, I've got to run and get my son here momentarily, and so we're gonna prepare to say Leila Tub, and as we go, I say, may Yahuah barak you and keep you. May Yahuah lift up his face upon you and show favor unto you. May Yahuah cause his face to shine upon you and give you his shalom. May the name of Yahuah be upon you. I love you all, Mashbaka and Leila Tub, shalom, and have a Baruch week. I was trying to remember how to say it. It's not coming to me right now. Shalom to you, family. Yes, Aki? Yes. Yeah, go ahead, Aki.
Yeah, I just need the information for Rob again.
Okay, it's I'm gonna put it on the screen. It's Repairers OB, REPAIRERS OB at gmail.com.
I'm not seeing it.
Oh, it's okay, so it's Repairers OB at gmail.com. For some reason, I'm gonna mute your mic so you can hear me better. Okay, I muted your mic so you can hear me better, Aki. For some reason, it's a sound like it's giving us a sound like almost like a train. Yeah, so it's Repairers, REPAIRERS, Repairers OB at gmail.com. Of course, that's a PayPal account, so you go to PayPal to make any deposits to the account. RepairersOB at gmail.com. Alright, I'll unmute you, Aki. Okay.
Okay, RepairersOB
yeah.
.com.
Yeah, at gmail.com. Of the breach. Of the breach. Repairers of the breach is what it is.
Okay. Repairers of the breach. Okay.
Yeah, but don't write out of the breach. Make sure you write Repairers OB, not of the breach. But the OB means of the breach. Yeah, so, all right, repairers of the breach, or repairsob@gmail.com. Okay? Um, all right. Well, once again, family, much ahab, love and appreciate you all. And Yahuwah willing, I'll be talking to you soon. Let's see. We don't have Rob meeting this coming Wednesday. It'll be the following. All right. Yahuwah willing, I'll be talking to you soon. Leila Tub, and have a wonderful week. Shabua Tub is what it is. Have a good week in Yahuwah. Praise Yahuwah. Shalom, family.